The following content is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition.
Hello, and welcome everyone to Always Another Way podcast. My name is Marina Sprocki Spriggs, and I'm your host. I have a master's in professional counseling, and I'm the IPPY award-winning author of Stop Looking for a Husband, Find the Love of Your Life, and Nasty Divorce, A Kid's Eye View. I write positive divorce advice for the HuffPost, and I'm trained in clinical hypnosis. And this podcast speaks to out-of-the-box thinkers, and it's for those who hear the call of hope in always another way. And if you're very rigid and set in your beliefs, this is probably not your cup of tea. However, you should note, tastes can and do change. And I just want to thank everyone who listens to this podcast, who shares it, and just learns about all the wonderful, wonderful information of our guests. And I would appreciate it if you took time to go to the iTunes podcast app or go to iTunes on your phone and find Always Another Way with 2 L's, subscribe and rate. The more ratings and the more subscribers we have, the higher we go up and the more this information can get out there. And again, I just really, really appreciate you listening. And I'm super excited today because we have never talked about this before on Always Another Way. So I'm going to bring on our guest, Christina Vargas. Christina has been a yoga teacher since 2005, and her love and passion for the healing arts led her to Ayurveda. She graduated from the California College of Ayurveda in 2009, where she studied to be an Ayurvedic Health Practitioner, Ayurvedic Chef, Ayurvedic Herbalist, and a yoga therapist. Her warmth and knowledge of the Ayurvedic discipline draws people from many communities. Each year, she presents to medical residents at Baylor University Medical Center at Dallas, helping them realize and make use of the benefits of Ayurveda coupled with modern medicine. Christina is especially passionate about bringing nourishment and the science of Ayurveda to women in all stages of life: fertility, pre- and postnatal, as well as menopause. When women are healthy and strong, the entire family and world flourish. And that's a fact. The unique nature of each woman requires specific attention and support, and Christina endeavors to work alongside women to create a life of radiant health. Christina is also able to bring greater understanding of Ayurvedic principles to yoga instructors through the annual training at the Yoga Movement. And Christina's aim is to empower yoga instructors to help their students live a life of vitality through the inseparable practice of Ayurveda and yoga. So welcome to the show, Christina.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited.
Honored to be here.
Yes. So let's, for lots of people who maybe you've heard about Ayurveda before, or maybe you have never heard about it, we are going to tell you everything and more. Yes. So we'll just start. If you just tell everybody, what is Ayurveda?
Yeah. So Ayurveda, it's pronounced Ayurveda, and the root, the word Ayur, A-Y-U-R, and separating from the word Veda. Veda means life or science, and Aryu meaning life. So Ayurveda is the science or knowledge of life, right? It's an over 5,000-year-old science, although I've been saying that for over 10 years, so we know that it's much older than that. And it is the sister science to yoga. Anything and everything that we know about health, about wellness, the human body, our innate ability to heal itself comes from the healing art of Ayurveda. And as I said, Ayurveda and yoga are sister sciences. They're like 2 sides of the same coin. Ayurveda is more of the healing side of yoga, and yoga is more of the spiritual side of Ayurveda. Nice. Many of the modalities of healing that are common to us here in the West, such as acupuncture, acupressure, Chinese medicine, the use of herbs, even a little bit of aromatherapy, all stems from Ayurveda. So
very nice.
Yeah,
okay, so now that we kind of know what that is, let's talk about a little bit about some of the causes of disease, and then we'll swoop in on more on Ayurveda and how it can help.
And I should say that Ayurveda, thrives on prevention, and in my personal opinion, where Western medicine really kind of fails us, And so Ayurveda, it's a way of life, and it's a way of living in harmony with Mother Nature. And so we use what we call 5 sense therapies to help a person to restore maybe any imbalances, as well as to stay balanced. Yeah. So we'll talk about those 5 sense therapies as well. Ayurveda views disease as, looking at our interactions with nature and how those interactions are either harmonious or disharmonious. And so there are many causes of disease, and we really break that word disease down to dis-ease, right? Yes. So while Ayurveda thrives on prevention, I would say that 99% of the clients that come see me aren't completely healthy. Either they, Western medicine has failed them, or maybe they're just looking for a more natural or holistic way to heal. But when we look at how or why the body breaks down, there are many different causes. So the first cause is the misuse of our senses. So what that means is taking something in through one of our 5 senses that is not appropriate for us, that is not harmonious. So misuse of the sense of taste, right? We've all been guilty of that, right? Instead of one cookie, we've had the whole sleeve of cookies. Yeah. Instead of one glass of wine, we've had the whole bottle of wine, know? So the misuse of our sense of taste, right? And the misuse of our sense of sight. What do you think that? I'm going to probe you a little. What do you think that looks like?
Like, I wonder if we're just not seeing things as what they really are and just sort of glossing past them, maybe.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
Yeah, I love that example. I always use the example of, misusing our sense of sight as, the sun goes down, and what do? We turn on the lights, we turn on the TV, we get busy, the computers turn on, right? So, we're not moving with the rhythms of nature, right? Yeah. Another example would just be the overuse of our phones, overuse of computer, or, if you want to go a little bit deeper, pornography, the overuse of looking at things that are not appropriate for our mind or our body, and how that causes disease. Moving on to the sense of hearing, how does that, what would that look like, do you think?
Oh my gosh, I could say, just think of noise pollution.
Yeah.
And, like some things I guess you can help and not help, but leaf blowers that go by like crazy decibels. Yeah. And I was guilty of being next to speakers because I liked music, and I thought the closer I could be, the more I could damage my ears.
Yeah, the more connected you are to the song if you're up close. Yeah. So we would look at, those are great examples, but also thinking about, let's pretend that you had an hour commute, right, to work, and then an hour home. So this is the example I always give is, what if you listened to news talk radio or political?
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, but think about if you did.
Oh, I used to.
Yeah, right. So what, does that cause fear, anger, anxiety, worry, so how that plays a role on our body and mind, right? So misusing the sense of hearing from loud music, inappropriate content, too much of one thing.
I can totally relate to that because I was a news listener, and then would just my blood pressure and get so mad. And then finally I was like, I'm going to take a news diet. And then I had audiobooks and was listening to entertaining things. Over a year now. Oh my gosh. I've not listened to news.
That's amazing.
I feel so good.
Yeah, it's freeing, isn't it?
Oh,
it's freeing. So yeah, those are a few ways that, we misuse our senses, and that could be disharmonious and cause disease. The next cause of disease is failure of the intellect. Okay, we call this prajnaparta in Sanskrit. And, what that means is that you've gone against what you know to be true. Your intellect is different than mine based on, how you grew up and your upbringing, your teachers, your mentors, things like that. But your experiences, right? Our experiences shape, who we are. And so what this means, again, is that you've gone against what you know to be true.
Yeah.
Right? So,
done that too.
and our body has, like I said earlier, an innate ability to heal. And if we just listen, if we, do those things that we know that we need to do, exercise and diet and those sort of things, we have more clarity and understanding and knowing that, okay, maybe this food isn't right for me, or maybe, my limit is one glass of wine, or no wine, or, things like that. And so there obviously has to be an awareness. And really Ayurveda takes a practitioner on the journey of self-awareness, self-discovery. And when have that self-awareness, then you're able to, obviously show up as a better version of yourself. But then we're less critical, less judgment, have less judgment on ourselves, which then can reflect to less judgment and criticism of others, and realizing that we're all different. And that's the beauty of our Ayurveda, is that there's this recognition that each one of us is unique, very unique and different, and we should all eat differently and live differently. So we'll get more into that. But so failure of the intellect is one of the causes of disease. Nice. So going against what you know to be true. Yeah.
Oh, all of those.
The next cause of disease is parinama, which in Sanskrit means time and motion. So this one's intriguing because there are two different types of time. There is biological time and linear time. Linear time is static, right? There's nothing that we can do to change what time it is or what day of the week it is. But biological time is dynamic. It responds with the rate of motion, right? So the faster you move, the faster you go, the faster you think, the faster the rate of biological time, right? So this is where I love how the science of Ayurveda and yoga, form. It's you get on your mat, right? And the teacher is asking you to balance in, let's say warrior 3, right? And you're in airplane pose, for those of you that may not know what that is, right? Mm-hmm. And you're probably not thinking about what you're going to do when you get off your mat, or what you didn't do before you got off your mat, If you did think about those things, you fall over, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, no big deal to fall over in a yoga posture, but, maybe our ego gets a little bit in the way and we don't want to fall over, but we have this one single point of focus, right? And so I always say that Ayurveda is taking your yoga practice off of your mat and into your everyday life, into your kitchen, into your relationships, into that knowing of self. And so, if each thought can be examined, then we can slow down the rate of biological time. So if we're constantly saying to ourselves, I can't believe it's already Christmas, or the new year, or it's already 2:00, where did the day go? Then this for you is that biological time is passing quickly. So the tools of yoga and Ayurveda allow us this presence, right? Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. I really like that. Yeah. That's really, really good.
Yeah. And then the primordial cause, cause of disease, is forgetting our true nature as spirit. Ooh. Right? So forgetting that we are a part of God, in whatever modality that is for each individual, and that God, the Creator, is a part of us, that you and I are connected, that we are connected with nature. And when we find that connection, right, then we're not dominated by the ego, right? We're not just sense beings. Yeah. But when we lose that connection, when we forget, then we become dominated by our ego. And really the ego loves to get caught up in the stories and the dramas of everyday life. And when that happens, the only thing that the ego, cares about is, does it taste good? Does it feel good? Does it look good? Does it sound good, right? So then we start misusing the senses. We become sense beings. We fail the intellect, right? Because we know there's more to life than just being sense beings, right? We all have a greater purpose. Yeah. Ayurveda believes, yeah. And then time and motion appear to pass quickly. So the primordial cause of disease is forgetting our true nature as spirit. So again, the science of yoga and Ayurveda bringing us to more of that, spiritual self, Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that made so much good sense. Yeah. All the way you were saying it. Good. Really, really like that. And that's the simple Veda. Yeah. Where she is. Okay. So now maybe we'll move into the 5 elements.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, Ayurveda is based on the science, or it is a science, and it's the science of the 5 elements of nature, which are air, ether, fire, water, and earth. Okay, so most people are familiar with all of those elements. I have some clients that kind of go, well, I don't really know what ether is. Do you?
Yeah, I don't really know what ether is.
Okay. So Ayurveda defines ether as space, right? And further defines ether as the space that holds air. So if you think about, what is beyond the stars and the planets and our whole solar system, what is it? Right? It's ether. I'm a visual learner, so I like to bring things, back home. So, thinking about the lining of the balloon, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
that, that space that holds the air could be ether. In our body, ether is the space between the body cavities and the organs, right? So it's space. Okay?
Nice. Okay.
So each of the 5 elements of nature has qualities. We call those the 20 attributes in Ayurveda. So if we could just go through a few of those, I think it would give the listeners an idea of, a deeper understanding of the science of Ayurveda. So air and ether have the same qualities. So I'm going to just ask you, do you think that they're hot or cold?
Could they be neither?
No, it has to be one or the other.
Okay, I'm gonna give them hot.
They're actually cold.
Oh, they're cold.
They're cold.
Meh.
It's okay. Moist or dry? Air.
Dry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dry. Yes. Got one. Heavy or light?
Light.
And stable or mobile?
Mobile.
Right. Okay. So air and ether are dry, they're cold, they're mobile, and
Well, space, that's cold, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have fire, right? So hot or cold.
Hot.
Okay. Moist or dry?
Moist.
It's dry.
Oh, it's dry.
Yeah,
Fire's dry.
dry,
Okay.
yeah.
I guess
So
it's not moist.
think
That would be no
about-
fire then.
Yeah, if fire burned out, right,
Yeah.
you have like ashes left, right? So fire's dry, and mobile or stable.
Can be mobile.
Yeah, actually, fire's unstable. We'd say it's mobile. It can be pushed. Yeah. So I said moist, dry. Oh, heavy or light?
Heavy.
It's light.
It's light.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wish we had a candle right here. You would see it's wavering.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then we have water. Okay. So moist or dry.
I'll get moist on that
Moist.
one.
Yeah. Hot or cold.
Cold.
And light or heavy.
I don't know. Water can be heavy.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Yeah. And stable or mobile.
Mobile. Stable.
Yeah.
Okay.
So water is stable because I can put it in a cup. I can put it in a container. It's not going to go anywhere. Water that's moving through a river or through the ocean, it's being pushed by something, So water just doesn't move on its own, right? Something is causing that
to move it,
force.
right.
Yeah. And then earth, instead of thinking about the whole planet, try to think about earthly matter, like rocks, dirt, soil, tree bark, things like that. So hot or cold,
Cold.
moist or dry.
Dry.
Yes. And heavy or light,
Heavy.
and stable or mobile.
Stable.
Yeah. It's not going anywhere.
Yes.
Yeah. So those are the 5 elements and their qualities. So at the moment of conception, we had a unique combination of those qualities within our nature. And in Ayurveda, those biological principles are called doshas. Okay, so these are the energies within our body. And there's 3 doshas. There's the Vata dosha, the Pitta dosha, and the Kapha dosha. Okay, and the Vata dosha is a combination of the qualities air and ether. Okay, so cold, dry, light, and mobile. The Pitta dosha is a combination of fire and a little bit of water. Okay, so it's hot, it's dry, it's unstable, it's light. And then we have the Kapha dosha, which is a combination of water and earth. And so it's cold, it's moist, it's stable and heavy. Okay, and so within, we each have a combination of those 3 biological principles. So just like you have a unique fingerprint that's unlike anyone else's, you have a unique combination of each of the 3 doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha.
Ah, nice. Okay.
And as a practitioner, we call this our Prakriti. Okay, Prakriti is your state at conception or your healthiest state, and how we determine what your Prakriti is. So out of 100%, how much Pitta do you have? How much Vata? How much Kapha?
Okay.
And in the Ayurvedic world, we would ask someone, if you asked me, okay, Christina, what's your dosha?
What's your dosha? Christina, what's your dosha?
I am Pitta Kapha.
Okay.
So I have about 60-something% Pitta. It's been a while since I've looked at it. 30% Kapha, and then like 13% Vata. Okay. So we are typically always going to be higher in one, and then we'll have a secondary one. And so again, when you ask someone, they'll say the first 2, right? That's kind of how we speak in that language, if you will. And we typically go out of balance in the doshas that we would be higher in. And so what determines your Prakriti, what determines your dosha is your physical structure, Okay, your personality traits, your long-term tendencies, meaning how you respond to stress.
Okay.
Right, and we'll talk more about that. How you maybe, what does your bowel movements typically look like?
Right.
What does your digestion tend to go to? Menstrual cycles, and then physical structure, the thickness of your skin and hair, and the shape of your face, and the shape of your eyes, and then pulse and tongue diagnosis by an Ayurvedic practitioner is sort of the last sort of piece that we determine what your Prakriti is.
Cool.
Yeah. And then your Vikruti is your state today, or your state with any imbalances.
Okay.
Okay. And so how do we get from this healthiest state to this, Vikruti, this unhealthiest state is, again, the misuse of our five senses, the things that we eat, the relationships that we surround ourselves with. The seasons play a huge role in who we are today, right? Because right now it's, cold outside, it's light, it's dry. And so those qualities we begin to take on a little bit.
Oh, right.
Same thing with food, right? We start to eat foods that are drier or lighter or hotter or spicier, then we take on those qualities. If our relationships are spicy and intense or dull and not, we're going to take on those qualities. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
a little
totally
bit?
does.
Yeah. So the goal of Ayurveda and working with a practitioner or being a practitioner yourself is to move from this Vikruti state to this Prakriti state, this healthiest state, and to maintain that balance despite the seasons. And yeah.
Very nice. And then the more you know, the more you're able to kind of look and adjust accordingly.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's keep going.
Let's keep going.
Let's keep going. So we did the dosha body types and personality traits.
Yes, we haven't done that
Yes,
yet.
Okay, let's do that.
Let's do that. So the Vata dosha is, has more of a physical features that have long bones. They might have a narrow bridge of nose. Their eyes will be small, maybe darty, very subtle facial features, thin skin, and their body frame is slight. Okay, this person would be very bubbly and very lighthearted, kind of skipping to the beat of their own drum in life. Typically, Vatas will speak with their hands, and they're very enthusiastic, just very excited, kind of feet off the ground, heads in the clouds. They've always got wonderful ideas, and they work quickly in life. They can get a lot done in a very short period of time. They're very creative individuals. And you might find them as a dancer or a musician or an artist, even an entrepreneur. It takes a lot of creativity, is making something with their hands, making jewelry, pottery, anything. They're very creative and expansive. I like to give animals when I talk about the doshas. So what animal do you think would be Vata?
A creative, slight go-getty animal.
I love to hear what people come
Oh my
up with.
gosh, what animal could be? I was like, I don't know that my cat's creative, but it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Cats can be Vatas,
Yeah. Felix is for sure.
Yeah.
Can find a way to get water anywhere.
I like to give the example of like a butterfly.
And he knocks at the door too.
Oh, that's creative. Yeah. A bee or a butterfly, right?
Nice.
So they're in their element, which is air. They're moving rather quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my clients one time said a cheetah, they're moving pretty fast.
For sure.
So yeah, that's Vata. A little bit about Vata. Pitta, right? So this is the one with a little bit more fire, or a lot of fire and a little bit of water. So this person, their facial features, their entire, sort of physical body is more on the medium build. Their bones, unlike the Vata dosha, become just a little bit shorter. So their muscle tone is more of a dominant feature. They have more square face and more sharp, intense features, passionate features about their face. Their eyes are more deep set, back into the face. Pittas are very passionate. They are also entrepreneurs. They're natural leaders, managers, directors, CEOs of companies, presidents of the United States. But they're very passionate, and they're definitely not a follower. They're a leader, and whatever it is that they're passionate about, they're really good at enrolling people to get on board with them. So they make great public speakers and salesmen, things like that. So, that's a little bit. So what animal do you think would be Pitta?
Oh my gosh. Who's the Pitta?
And they're very friendly, warm.
Dogs are friendly and warm. But I don't know, are they Pitta? They seem maybe more docile than fiery. Some dogs are fiery, though.
Yeah. I mean, I think each animal breed could be a different dosha depending on the personality maybe of their owners. Or,
for sure.
Yeah. So Pitta, I like to think about a bull.
Oh,
It's a little aggressive, but, they're pretty intense. It's, they have a goal from, getting to point A to the matador holding the flag, and they've got this focus on, and they're not going to let anything sort of get in their way. If you get in the way, you might get trampled over, So whereas I always like to, joke that if the Vata bull gets there, right, and you see the focus, and then the Vata bull is like, Sally, hey, and, they kind of start to, they take this path to get to their goal, where Pittas go, one straight line, and I'm going to get there pretty quick. They're going to climb the corporate ladder pretty quick, the Pitta person. So, shark would be another great example.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So,
that's good.
Anyway, the Kapha dosha, so this is earth and water. Their physical structure is more solid. Their bones get even a little bit shorter. So, they're more apple or pear shape. They've got really large, moist eyes and the friendliest face you could ever imagine. They are calm and gentle and just loving and easygoing. They get a bad reputation for, being more on the heavier side, but their bones are shorter and their skin is thicker and their muscles are heavier, and they've got more fat tissue than any of the other doshas. They're also the most healthiest out of the three doshas, mostly, and they're just very, like I said, calm and stable and easygoing. It's very difficult to kind of ruffle their feathers. They might make it to CEO of the company one day, but maybe that's only because they've been with the company for 30 years. They're very stable in their jobs and their relationships. They love to give back, so you might find them as a nurse or a caregiver or a teacher.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Very
So
nice.
it's a little bit about Kapha. Okay, which animal do you think is Kapha?
Well, I'm thinking of another dog this time.
Okay, different animal.
What is another good different animal? Guinea pig.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I always say like a turtle or an elephant.
Oh,
you know,
nice.
because they're heavier, they're
Yeah.
moving a little bit slower. Kaphas definitely make decisions slower.
Guinea
Yeah,
pigs are kind of quick.
yeah.
Hard to catch.
Yeah, yeah. And then out of balance, what that means is that those qualities that we just talked about, right? The hot, the cold, the dry, the light, have increased in excess, right? And we typically are going to be attracted to those qualities that are innately a part of who we are,
Yeah.
right? And so the Pitta person is going to be attracted to a schedule that is, that they're working too much, right? They may have a 9-to-5 job, but they come home and they're still very intensely working, right? And so if we go through those really quick, Vata dosha, when they get out of balance, they're going to suffer from excess air and ether qualities, so more gas, bloating, insomnia, difficulty to make decisions, lacking follow through, anxiety, fear, feelings of overwhelm, things like that. The Pitta dosha, so an excess of fire, maybe a little bit of water, but mostly an excess of fire, would be inflammation in the body, loose stools, gas maybe with odor, heartburn or acidity, things like eczema, acne, psoriasis, things like that. and more anger, resentment, jealousy, envious of others, things like that. And then I know it's not fun to talk about their imbalanced state, is it?
Glad we all get that way.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
The Kapha dosha, again, this is more water and earth. So they're stable individuals, but that stability they're too stable. So, they tend to have weight gain. They tend to have more oiliness on their skin. They're more prone to things like depression or melancholy. Attachment is really huge, so hoarding, things like that. They start to feel sluggish and heavy in their digestion, and more of just a kind of a cloudy mind. And again, slow to make decisions, slow to get going, slow to move, So I say that, the Kapha dosha kind of wakes up in the morning and, they might take them a long time to get out of bed. But then once they get out of bed, they grab their cup of coffee or their tea, and then they go right to the couch and sit down and relax some more, Whereas the Pitta dosha would, boom, 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 go, 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 and, be intensely out the door. And so, and then the Vata dosha is just hurrying along and, forgets something and shows up late and, again, out of balance, but we've all been there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's just a little snippet of the 3 doshas, the elements, the qualities of them, and what it may look like if they go out of balance.
Nice. And so when you work with people, you have a way that you go to kind of figure out with all that stuff where people are in this thing, so that you can, for each individual, do the whole thing and let them know where they are.
Yeah, so I do a full health assessment to understand what their prakruti is. So what do you look like when you are balanced and healthy? And how are you feeling now? And where do you need support? And understanding which doshas may have risen. We also look at the state of a person's ama, agni, and ojas. And so
tell us more about that.
So ama is toxins. And we can look at that through tongue diagnosis. Ama can show up in other places of our body as well. Body odor, excessive thirst is a sign of ama. And then we look at the state of a person's agni, which is their digestive fire. There's 4 states of agni, right? Our digestive fire. We can relate this to our metabolism. So a balanced state is where we want to be, but there could be a low state where we might not ever feel hungry, or we just don't have like an appetite for food. We might have a variable agni, which means sometimes you're hungry and sometimes you're not, and then you're hungry and sometimes you're not. So it's variable. And then we might have a high agni, where it just doesn't seem like we can, eat enough, and we eat a lot. And so as a practitioner, and then the last one is ojas. Ojas is our immune system. And so by looking at a person's tongue and taking their pulse, we can determine which doshas are out of balance, the tissues are out of balance, or where the tissues, may be out of balance, and the level of their ojas or their immune system.
Very nice.
So as a practitioner, that's what we're looking at is ama, agni, and ojas, and how to balance those in relation to that person's prakruti, taking into consideration the seasons and where they're out of balance.
I love that. And so now we'll go on to some seasonal support.
Great. That's awesome. So as we were talking, let's talk a little bit about dinacharya, which is a Sanskrit word that means daily routines. And so in Ayurveda, there are many different sadhana or dinacharya practices, and these are practices that bring us greater wellness, greater health. And so one of those things, I brought you a little goodie bag.
Ooh.
Yay. So let me pull some things out of here. So one of the first things that Ayurveda recommends is scraping your tongue with the tongue scraper upon rising.
Oh, nice. I've heard of that.
Yes. And so the idea is that before you eat, before you brush your teeth or take in a drink of water, that you would scrape your tongue. And so you just simply stick this as far back into your mouth as you can without, gagging. It shouldn't be uncomfortable. And you do several scrapes of the tongue and rinse it off and do several more. And depending on the color of the ama that you see on your tongue can tell you a little bit about the doshas that may be out of balance. So if it's more yellow or green, it would be more pitta. If it was more gray or brown, it would be more vata. And if it was more white and thick, it would be more kapha.
Ooh, nice.
So when we go to sleep at night, any undigested food or undigested emotions comes up and lies on our tongue. And so ideally, we want to remove that ama before we take a first drink of water. If we didn't, then that ama could go back down into the body and stick to possibly a weak cell receptor site, causing a deeper imbalance in our body.
Oh, nice.
So
I'm excited.
Scrape your tongue every morning.
Thank
There's
you.
a
I can't wait.
Yes. And then, one of the other things, let's see what else I have in my goodie bag for
So
you.
exciting.
Yes. Is some nasia oil, right? And so this is great for this season in particular, although you can do it, all year long. But nasia oil is a medicated oil, an herbalized oil that supports your respiratory system. So the fastest way to our nervous system and, to our brain and to our mood is through our sense of smell. That's why aromatherapy is, so amazing. But also using nasia oil. So right now we're in the vata season. Okay. So remember, vata is cold
And dry.
dry,
And
heavier,
Heavy.
light. Heavier light.
oh, is it
Air.
Oh, air's light.
Light.
Okay,
Yeah. So that's the season that we're in, right? So we want to counter those.
I feel the dry.
Yeah. We want to counter those qualities within us. Yeah. A lot of us are probably feeling that dry and cold and flu season, right? So one of the things that we do is we practice the neti pot. Have you heard of the neti
I do.
pot?
I have one of those.
Okay. So it's a little nasal irrigation. It's like a little teapot.
It works.
You put it in your nose, turn your head to the side, and then a little bit down. You use a little saline rinse, and you can rinse your, do this nasal irrigation. We want to follow, however, the neti pot, and sometimes I don't even practice the neti pot, and I'll just simply use this. So you can do it before or after, or not at all, of use of the neti pot, is putting the nasia oil in your nose. And so you just literally take a little drop and put it on your pinky finger and just massage it into your nostrils.
Okay.
And then I always put a little drop in the ear as well, and this can help to prevent the qualities of the vata dosha, the coldness, the dryness, from coming into our body.
Oh, nice.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it certainly does.
And so oil is heavy, it's moist, it has all the opposite qualities of the vata dosha, right?
Nice.
This also helps to prevent colds and flus and things like pathogens and allergens coming into
kind of
our
blocks
system.
them from coming.
Yeah. So if you're standing in front of someone and they've got something, this will protect you. If you're have allergies to pollens and things like that, ragweed or, dust and things like that, you could put this on and this would support you,
Nice.
along with doing the neti pot. Yeah.
Very, very
So
nice. Ooh.
there's a little oil for
Thank
you to
I
use.
I can't wait till
Yeah.
tomorrow morning. Well,
Yeah.
I'll try this later, but to try almost.
Yeah, and there's a more sort of traditional way of practicing that by lying on your couch or a chair and tilting your head all the way back and taking the dropper without allowing the dropper to touch your nose, and placing 1 to 2 drops into the nose and kind of inhaling it up and massaging it up and out.
Oh,
okay,
nice,
so
yeah.
that's more of the traditional
Really getting
way.
all the sinuses
yes,
up here.
absolutely. So I recommend doing that, but just at first, just take 1 drop, 1 nostril, another drop, another nostril, and then 1 in each ear, just to get you comfortable and friendly with the oil. And then, advance to lying on your bed and just letting that, really settle in for a couple of minutes.
Nice.
Yeah.
And get that extra just awareness of where you are.
Yeah, and it makes pranayama practices, so breathing techniques, breathing practices, much better. You're more open, you're more receptive. It is really beneficial for helping with things like anxiety. So it has a lot of physical benefits, but mental benefits as well. So people who suffer from insomnia, anxiety, even anger, depression, like this is very, very beneficial.
Good.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Okay. And then another seasonal or all year round practice would be the use of Abhyanga oil. So I brought you a bottle of Abhyanga oil.
And
And
such gorgeous packaging too.
Thank you. This is our Vata Abhyanga oil, and this has a lot of herbs in here that pacify the Vata dosha. So they're going to be opposite qualities of Vata, which we've said are warm. They're going to be nourishing. They're going to be grounding, and obviously the oil is moist. Yeah. So the word in Sanskrit for oiling the body is snehana, which means to love. And I, believe with my whole heart that Ayurveda is the practice of self-love. It's the practice of self-care, and when we do this for ourselves, then we can give that love to others, and make the world a better place.
I love that. I love that.
So Abhyanga, you would basically want to warm up your oil. Okay. So you can put this into your sink and fill it up with hot water. You can just create some sort of warm bath for your oil. Okay. The room that you're in would be warm and inviting. So, maybe closing your bathroom door is what I recommend, and maybe either running the hot shower for a few minutes, or if you have a heater that you can put in there and start that. You're standing on a towel that maybe you don't mind if a little oil gets on, not that we're sloshing it around, but when you're new to anything, you never know. You never know. And it's okay if you want to slosh it around too. That would be fun. So you've got your oil, and you just simply add oil to your palm as you go throughout the body. And so ideally for this season, and for those that are more Vata in nature, you start with your head and you work your way down. And so we can do this together.
Sounds so lovely.
It is. We can do this together. Okay. We can place our hands on our head, and we just give ourselves a nice scalp massage. So doing it in circles, side to side, front to back, getting the medulla, so back here at the base of the neck, right? A couple of circles in one direction, a few circles in the opposite direction. And then we add some more oil to our palm, right? And then over the joints, we do round circular motions over the joints, and you want to go pretty quick, right? So what this is doing is creating more heat. Yeah. It's creating more stability to the joint, and it's reducing those qualities of air and ether. As we get old, right, we start to have joints and bones that are kind of cricking. You walk up the stairs and you crick, right? This is going to support with that, along with yoga and other practices. So over the joints, we do long circular motions, right? And then over the long bones, we're going to do long motions, and we always want to think about coming towards the heart, right? And so it's this loving practice. And if we're looking in the mirror, we're saying positive, self-affirming, affirmations to ourselves. I am beautiful. I am loved. We get the elbow, round circular motions, long bone here. And then with the finger, I just kind of pinch the nail bed and get in between, and then do the opposite side. We go around the breast tissue with our fingers. We go around the abdomen in a clockwise position, starting in the lower right quadrant to help with digestion. And then we go over the hip bone. We can use both hands now. So we go over the hip bone. We do both hip bones, and then over the leg. You can see my leg here, but you just, kind of pop up your leg, and you go like this.
Back and forth,
and then you get the knee, and then you get the, lower leg, the ankle, top of your foot, bottom of your foot, and you just give yourself a nice,
how wonderful,
loving, massage. And this is beneficial for keeping our body healthy, the muscles strong, the joints stable. It's very relaxing. It's wonderful for, again, anger, anxiety. It just helps with a lot of different nervous system disorders, but obviously very nourishing, loving to ourselves, and great for our skin.
So I'm just thinking here for later. Would a really nice warm bath be a good precluder to this?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. So clinically, in the office, when we do Abhyanga, we put a steam tent over the table once a person has clinically received an Abhyanga practice. Nice. And so the steam tent allows the person to sweat out any toxins that would have been stirred up. So essentially, the practice of Abhyanga is the movement of toxins to the digestion for elimination. So yes, the idea after practice is that you may get into the shower and kind of rinse your body off and kind of induce a little bit of sweating. I always tell my clients, don't wash the oil off. Maybe, wash the areas that you may need to with, your sponge or whatever, but just let the rest of the water just kind of run off. Some of my very Vata clients prefer to just leave the oil on and then go about their day.
Yeah.
If your skin is really dry, you might feel that that's appropriate. If you're more pitta, kapha, that oil might kind of be on the surface of your skin depending on how long you massage it in, and it may not feel comfortable for you to put your clothes on. So traditionally, we would get in the shower or have a little bit of inducing of sweat before we move on. And traditionally, we do this first thing in the morning, right, to increase lymph.
Oh, yeah.
To move lymph, to start and get digestion going, to energize our bodies. And then we get a nice aroma. I'll have you smell it. We get a nice aromatherapy with the bottle. And that's always lovely for our senses and our mood.
That smells lovely.
You like it?
Very, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the practice of Abhyanga.
What? And these products, I bet you can all get from you.
You can.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And we'll have all in the show notes everywhere that you can get Christina's stuff. But Simple Veda.
Yeah.
Right there. Simple VEDA, everything and more. But
And
let's
then
keep going.
Yeah, and then I have one little small gift for you, another one. And this is my homemade rose cream, and this is just what I use on my face at night and first thing in the morning. It's made from rose water.
Yummy.
We're beekeepers, so a little bit of beeswax.
Oh, and that smells so nice, just
Like
such
it?
a nice light
Yeah,
scent.
it's very light. You can use it on your hands. I like to keep I have a little bottle, a little sample in my purse that I put on my hands during this time of year it gets dry. Yeah, so those are just a few practices for ourself, our body. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And really, and just that, just all together, and just making it so mindful, but also purposeful
Right.
and helpful
Yes.
too.
Yes.
I love it.
And then as you move through the seasons, we would take maybe a different medicated oil. We would take an oil that would be pitta, maybe during the summer. We would take a kapha oil during the winter or during the springtime, right? Or yeah,
Just adjust as you go.
Right. You can adjust as you go, or you may find that one oil just suits you best, depending on your dosha or your prakriti. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've kind of gotten most of all of these covered, I think.
Yeah, that's great. We can talk a little bit about food if you'd like.
Yeah, let's
or-
talk a little bit about food because we've all got to eat.
Yeah, we all
Yeah.
have to eat. So as there are food sadhanas or practices, daily practices with our body, there are food practices as well. And just as, you are different than me based on our prakriti. And I always like to think about this, like even on my drive over here, like I'm wearing a sweater, a long sleeve shirt and boots, yet I saw someone on the side of the road, right, walking, and he was wearing shorts and a t-shirt, So I just love Ayurveda because it just shows that we're all different. So the pantry should be different for each of us as well, right? And we really look at what's in our pantry to be seasonal. So when it comes to things like fruits and vegetables, right? We're eating fruits and vegetables that are in season, right? We're not eating fruits and vegetables from other countries that may be in an opposite climate than we are.
Right.
And then this time of the year, ideally, we're eating vegetables that are cooked. Right? So if we were eating something, let's say like a dry carrot right now, right? Those are the same qualities as the Vata dosha. Does that make sense?
It does.
So if we're
But
eating...
some roasted carrots, maybe?
Yeah, so roasted carrots, sautéed carrots or vegetables in ghee, right? To bring in the oils. So this time of the year, bringing in lots of oils is really important. And if you don't know what ghee is, I have a recipe on my website, but do you eat
I've
ghee
purchased
or-
some. Yes, I do know what that is.
Great,
Yeah.
yeah. So ghee should be used abundantly.
And it's technically dairy-free, isn't it? Do they say it is, but not really? That's what I was trying to figure out.
Technically, because we remove the fat solubles from it. But if you're vegan and
It comes from an animal.
it comes from an animal.
Yeah,
It comes
okay.
from a cow. But in India, cows are looked at as a very sacred animal. They
don't eat 'em.
They don't, and they treat their cows as one of the family. So I make my own ghee, but yes, you could certainly buy it. And there are companies that feel the same about the animals and have that good harvesting production. So, but yeah, so lots of oils, lots of cooked, moist foods. We really want to get away from this time of the year eating salads and raw foods and things like that, and really taking in all of our beverages room temperature. And really that goes for the whole year.
Yeah.
So if we're, drinking cold ice water, let's say all day long, that's what I did growing up. That's what I drink. It puts out our digestive fire. Right. So we've got this think about a little campfire in your belly. And if you're drinking cold water all day long, and then it just puts out the fire, and then you go to eat, and there's no metabolism, there's no agni, the digestive fire is diminished. Does that make sense?
Yes, it totally does. And also, sometimes I forget to drink water, so I just chug, and it's easier to chug room temperature water for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So yeah, that's a little bit about the diet for the season in terms of vegetables. Do you have other specific questions? Like, how about spices?
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
love spices,
Yeah.
and there is, I know, in Ayurveda this turmeric, this evening yummy golden drink.
Oh, I should have brought you some.
Yeah, so I had a golden turmeric latte this morning.
Oh, nice.
At this new place, and my tongue was yellow, and a little bit of my lips afterwards, but it was very delicious.
Yes. So I actually just left a meeting with my very dear friend Hema, who owns a company called Restore Simply, and she makes the golden milk blend, and we sell it at Simple Veda, and you can go to her website and purchase, and it's amazing. But spices are a huge part of Ayurveda. Spices help to aid in the digestion, absorption, and assimilation of our food. So they're not just there to make our food taste good, which we should never be eating food that's bland and boring, but they're really there to help assimilate the food. And a lot of our culture, we sort of eat about 3 of the Ayurvedic 6 tastes. What 3 tastes do you think that most of our culture consumes?
Oh, in this culture here, bland, barbecue, and Tex-Mex. Oh, that's
Yeah.
Texas.
Yeah. So sweet,
A sweet, salty.
Sweet, salty, and sour.
Sour.
Yeah, is typically the 3 that most people consume. Although in Texas, I find that it's a lot of pungent. It's a lot of spicy, And so there's 6 Ayurvedic tastes. There's sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, and astringent. And the idea in our diet is that we have all 6 tastes in our meal and or throughout the day as best as we can.
Okay.
Right? So we have a combination of all 6. And that helps to create balance. If we consumed just one taste, then that is going to cause an imbalance in our digestion in our body.
And can I tell you?
Yes, please.
I feel that, maybe not in the right way, but because these are not good foods, but sometimes, too many, something salty, maybe they're chips or something sweet, and then it's probably not the good foods to go back and forth with. But I do feel that where I'm like, oh, that's too much salt. Needs something sweet to balance. Too much sweet. Needs something salty. I'm sure there's a better way.
Yeah. So if we look at all the tastes, so let's start with bitter, right? What foods are bitter? Foods that are bitter are all of our dark leafy greens. So kale, chard, endive, romaine, turmeric. You mentioned turmeric. Turmeric is bitter. Fenugreek is another common Ayurvedic spice that is bitter. Some limes can be bitter. Then we move to astringent, which is just a synonym that means dry, right? So these are going to be all of your legumes, right?
Okay.
So your beans would be astringent. There are some vegetables that are astringent, so cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, right? So things that are drying would not be so great for vatas, right? So vatas could stay away from what we call the cruciferous vegetables, the broccoli, the cabbage. And if they did have them, if they just felt like that was something they wanted, well, we want to make sure that it's really well spiced and really well cooked, right? So instead of doing raw cabbage, we would really, steam it or make sure there was a lot of oils and spices to help with that. Then we can move, and there are some fruits that are more astringent than other fruits. So pomegranate, apples, pears, those are more astringent than, some. Yeah. Then we move to pungent, or what we call spicy. So things that are pungent would be garlic, onions, tomato sauce, peppers, horseradish, mustards, things like that.
Oh, yeah. And so,
Yeah.
well, we've got to wrap up. But the time
Okay.
just went
Oh my gosh.
super fast.
Yes.
But you can find more about Christina at simpleveda.com. And she has all kinds of things, services, events, recipes, personal consultations, everything. And it has been, this is like a whole bunch of knowledge out there to get you started, and you can find her for more. It will be in all the show notes. And for all of you listening, you know that there is always another way.